For the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world, we are live and amplified. So let's get ready to podcast.
Fire it up.
Welcome, everybody, to another live and amplified livecast. I'm your host, Tom Quiet, and we are back at it again with another amazing podcast. Today, we have a very special guest. We have Sugarnap. How's it going today, man?
Good, man. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I'm really excited to sit down and chat with you and, get to know more about you and what you got going on. And we don't have a lot of people from I'm going to just say the Washington scene come on here. So it's really cool to start bringing people in from all over. We've had a few people from Seattle and Portland and like the Pacific Northwest, but not too much from just Washington in general. So really excited to chat with you.
Definitely.
But before we kind of jump into the new single that released recently, let's kind of give you an opportunity to introduce yourself to everybody that's just tuning in or getting to meet you for the first time. So go ahead and kind of give a background on yourself.
Yeah, totally. I'm a 26-year-old writer, producer, engineer. Sugarnap is my moniker, and what I do is I make it all myself. I produce and engineer it, mix it all in my home studio. Grew up in Des Moines, Washington, not Iowa. It's about a half hour south of Seattle, and spent a lot of time playing music in different bands between Tacoma and Seattle, and I guess the greater Pacific Northwest area. And started doing Sugarnap actually a few years before the initial release, and kind of spent those years getting quite a large catalog of songs written and recorded, and then officially launched in July of, I think 2020. It's been either 2020 or 2021. Mm-hmm. It's been a crazy year. Yeah. It would be 2020, yeah. Wow, those years kind of blend together.
Oh, yeah. 2020, 2021, it's all kind of the same, so.
Totally. But yeah, I did that, and then last year in October 2021, came out with my first EP. And then this year I've got my new single that just came out, and so it's all pretty new stuff. Finally getting back to gigging here in Washington, so that's really exciting. I've got some very exciting news about that and some gigs coming up. So yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, definitely. I do a lot. Also, in the winter, I'm a commercial diver, which is kind of a big part of the story, I guess, because it's a big source of the influence for a lot of the Sugarnap music. It's very underwater inspired, a lot of it, or beach inspired. So that's the other half of my life.
How did you get involved with that?
So I got a family history of commercial fishing, and I just love scuba diving anyway, and so my cousin got into it, and it's a pretty small fishery. I'm diving for sea cucumbers, actually, which is not a vegetable, contrary to some beliefs. It's a sea slug, and they taste kind of like clams, and they're real tasty. But my cousin got into it, and he called me one day and asked if I'd be interested in coming up and checking out the fishery and working for another diver that he was diving with, and came up there and fell in love with it and leased a permit the next year and then bought my permit last year. So I've been doing it. This will be my fourth year this year doing it. And yeah, it's awesome. It's really flexible because I'm only diving Mondays and Tuesdays, and I'm my own boss. I got my own boat now, and so I can still fly home back to Seattle for gigs and all that. And I actually do some gigs up in Alaska in the town that I dive out of a lot. So it's such a cool experience, and it's so hard to not be just unbelievably inspired every corner, everywhere, every day. It's just incredible. So
yeah, for sure. And plus you get to, I'm sure you get to travel enough as it is with the music and all that, but like the fact that you get to go up to Alaska, not a lot of people can say they've been to Alaska, let alone get to go there consistently. So.
Oh. Right. Yeah, it's cool. It's definitely its own side of Alaska too. So it's its own, unless you're commercial fishing, it's hard to see some of those spots, Alaska is beautiful no matter how you get up there.
Yeah.
But it's definitely a privilege getting to see places that you know, it would cost thousands of dollars to fly out to or charter a boat to, and I'm getting paid to go to these just crazy spots, you know, these remote places that are just breathtaking.
For sure, for sure.
Yeah, it's a good time.
Yeah. So while you're working on the music, so kind of taking a step back from to your younger days, who was like the first person to introduce you to music, just in general?
Yeah, so I grew up with my folks, and I've got a brother and a sister, and they're all musical, and they're all playing in the church band that I grew up going to. So I was seeing them all the time, and so that was a lot of like the really early exposure. My first experience really with music, with secular music, was I had to be 12, 13 years old, and my dad called me into his office, and you know, he was an old hippie from upstate New York, and he loved all the good old. I mean, they all have great music taste. Anyway, he called me into his office and had me sit on his lap and turn off the lights, and he played all of Dark Side of the Moon, Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon.
Nice.
And that was just the coolest thing I'd ever. And he's got, you know, some nice desktop monitors. He's an audiophile like me, so it was a real fantastic experience. And we had, I don't know if you remember Microsoft Media Player's little visual things that they would have. Yeah. So we just had those going on while we were listening to Dark Side, and I remember after that just being like, wow, this can be made, you know, like this. Someone made this. This is the coolest thing ever. And after that, I mean, I really tuned into music, you know, on a different wavelength, I guess. And picked up the guitar shortly after that. I mean, how do you listen to David Gilmour and not want to pick up the guitar? You know, hard not to. But yeah, so that Pink Floyd to this day is my favorite band, and very influential to Sugarnap's music as well. So yeah, other than that, there's a lot of 60s and 70s folk music from you know, the San Francisco scene and all that. A lot of Neil Young as well, and I guess he kind of fit down in that scene too. But so my folks and I, and my brother and sister, we would harmonize and jam, have these cool jams to these old, you know, Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young songs, and James Taylor and Carole King and Joni Mitchell, and so I had a really rich upbringing around music, and that it's definitely a big part of it all for me. So.
For sure. So you brought up Dark Side of the Moon as kind of that first album. Was there a specific song that spoke to you, or was it just the entire experience?
I mean, that whole album is kind of an experience of itself, and as many years ago as it was now, I can so vividly remember hearing the clocks go off in the beginning of the song Time, and just being blown away by it, and Us and Them. I mean, I could almost think of every single song and the experience I had listening to the whole thing. But yeah, I think Us and Them and Time and Great Gig in the Sky definitely were songs that I vividly remember experiencing and just being blown away by the performances, by Claire Torrey's performance on Great Gig in the Sky, and the swirling organs and keyboards, and Us and Them, and of course the clocks and Time. Yeah.
For sure. So when you started picking up the guitar and learning how to play, did you were you just learning covers, or did you jump into learning how to write at that point?
Well, I guess to give you a little bit more backstory, from a pretty early age, and I don't even know when, because it's as early as I can remember, I was really into soundtracks. And so we had a grand piano in the house growing up, and so I would learn these different, just kind of by ear, I would learn these different soundtracks, like Pirates of the Caribbean and Star Wars and Last of the Mohicans and Braveheart, you know, some pretty good stuff there. And then after that, I started kind of dabbling and writing and composing my own pieces that I always thought would be cool for a movie soundtrack. You know, that was kind of how I was writing them. So I wasn't really writing a lot of lyrics, but I would write a lot of stories in class and school. I think it was after the whole Dark Side of the Moon experience when I started picking up the guitar. That's when I started materializing everything a little bit more and kind of combining words and music. And I wanted to be less of a composer of movie soundtracks and more of a musical artist, I guess, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
Write impactful songs like Great Gig in the Sky and us and them that impacted me so much. I wanted to create stuff that I could move somebody else as intensely with, you know.
Hmm. Yeah.
So
And so then as you kind of start growing in your career and moving forward in your music career, you'd mentioned that you played in a few different bands. What kind of music were you playing at that point? Was it just traditional alt rock, or what kind of music were you?
so growing up in Seattle, I think you could almost ask any band who's come from here would probably mention some influence from Alice in Chains or
Mm,
Pearl Jam or Nirvana or
mm,
Soundgarden, Temple of the Dog. I mean, all the titans of the Northwest, you know.
yeah.
Um, and so growing up with some of my early bands, actually to stray quite far from Pink Floyd. One of my first bands was kind of like a heavy metal band.
Okay.
And I wanted so badly to sing heavy metal, and I'm so glad that I stopped trying to do that. As much as I love listening to it, I just can't do it. It's not me. But I love that stuff so much. So I tried a lot of that. And so my first band, we called it progressive grunge metal, which was
Okay.
sort of like a, you know, we like to think of it as if Dream Theater met Alice in Chains, you know. And you know, I played with some really good guys, but it just wasn't quite the thing.
Mm,
So we broke up for all different reasons. In all my bands, I've been one of the only people who's still continuing to pursue music. So I think that was a lot of it, is people just, music wasn't the long term thing. So bands break up, people go in different directions. And so after that band, I met up with some guys. We started the band called Dire Fire.
mm,
And that was kind of fun because I was able to take a step back from kind of the main spotlight lead role, which was kind of nice, and focus more on guitar playing, because I've always been a big guitar player. I love
yeah.
lead guitar playing and all that stuff. Again, coming back to David Gilmour and listening to Time, you know, and
Oh, yeah.
all that. Hard not to. So that was kind of nice, and it was sort of like a Lennon McCartney partnership in terms of the writing thing with Dire Fire, because I was still a big time writer, and I produced I kind of co-produced the first couple of things we did, and that was fun. That was kind of it harkened back to a further era in the '70s with psychedelic rock and some reggae. So it was kind of like if people said if Pink Floyd or Led Zeppelin met Sublime, was kind of the vibe of Dire Fire. So, you know,
Yeah.
lots of long guitar solos, and the singer was had a very Bradley Noel kind of voice. Sounded great. We're still good buddies, but again, just we broke up. We actually had sort of a little bit of a record deal kind of thing with London Bridge Studio, who is the studio where Alice in Chains recorded and all those titans.
Right.
Soundgarden, Nirvana didn't do anything there, but Pearl Jam did a lot of stuff there. Temple of the Dog, Macklemore, the list goes on and on.
Mm-hmm.
And we were kind of at the, not any great peak, but the peak of our career, of our time, you know, with that band, the biggest we had ever been. I mean, we were turning down shows because we were just getting booked all the time, the time. And it was awesome, but I think we got kind of stressed out about the direction of music. At that point, you know, I was feeling like, you know, why are we trying to sound like Sublime and Led Zeppelin when we're competing with Sublime and Led Zeppelin?
Yeah.
You know, like we're not going to win that one.
Yeah.
And of course it's fun playing. We love that music and we're honoring that by playing it, but we're trying to be original artists and we're not really being original, you know?
Yeah.
And we are in our own ways. It's our own songs through the filter of, you know, of those influences. And I guess any artist kind of is the sum of their influences. But so I was kind of pushing our envelope a little bit, and I think that became uncomfortable. Half of us were on the same page and the other half wasn't, and there's 4 of us, so we were kind of split down the middle.
Yeah.
And I
So
remember go ahead.
I was going to say, is it fair to say early on, especially during this time, you were kind of struggling with being influenced by a band versus being a tribute band of a Sublime? You know, is that
Well,
kind of
we never wanted to be like a
Well,
a
you were
tribute necessarily.
you were worried that you were being more of a tribute band than being influenced by certain bands.
Yeah, in a way, and I think that more. I think the big thing with that was just our fan base. Like we weren't really seeing. Well, we weren't seeing a lot of young people coming out to our shows. We were seeing a lot of, you know, moms and dads who, you know, heard a band that sounded kind of like the bands that they were into. You know?
Yeah.
And still had, you know, a fine young audience, but I saw it going in a direction that wouldn't have lasted for a long time. You know, I don't think it would have been very substantial on a touring standpoint, on a global standpoint. I don't think it was a market that made sense for us. Again, we're competing with, you know, just the actual bands. We're competing with Aerosmith, you know, and it's like I just thought that's not really going to work. We're going to cap out, we're going to plateau, and then that's going to be it. You know, these fans don't use Spotify. You know, they don't follow social media. I mean, it would be really, really tough to do. So, and I still think we had a pretty original sound. I don't think you could listen to us and actually say that we sound like one or another band. I mean, you could surely hear the influences, but yeah, and I remember we were working with Grammy-nominated producer and owner of London Bridge Studio, Eric Lillevoix, and a really good buddy of mine now. He's kind of a really close mentor. But you know, tensions were really high during the studio session, recording the first single of what would be our first album from London Bridge. And late nights, you know, so stressful. I mean, it felt like, you know, the Fleetwood Mac rumor sessions, you know, just drama all the time. And I remember talking to Eric, and I'm like, man, I don't really know what to do here. I really want this to work out with these guys, and I just feel heartbroken that we're having such a hard time with it. And I remember he told me, he's like, you know, Caleb, I would really suggest and encourage you to pursue your own thing. And I didn't know what that meant at the time. I thought, does that mean like a solo folk career? You know, what is my own thing? Do I just have a little acoustic guitar with me? Like, what does that even look like? I don't know anything about home studios or producing stuff myself. But at the same time, I wanted so badly to be the one turning all the knobs during those sessions. I'm like, man, we're paying thousands of dollars for somebody else to turn the knobs, for somebody else to create our sound. And so I had a pretty heavy hand in the co-production of that single, of that song. That was never released with Dire Fire, but there's some more fun history with that song, with that session. So after all that, we ended up breaking up very shortly after. The song wasn't released. I started my own home studio and started writing stuff, and Eric from London Bridge was kind of my mentor with all that. Hey, what gear do I get? What should I do? What do these knobs do? What kind of knobs should I be getting? You know, what kind of gear should I be getting? And I just started writing Sugarnap stuff like crazy. I mean, it was just pouring out of me, and I kind of felt like estranged a little bit, because for the first time, you know, it wasn't just, you know, butt rock. You know, it wasn't just. You know, it was just different, and it was so weird and empowering in a way too, because I'm for the first time controlling everything, and it was never about control, but it was empowering knowing that I'm not going to break up this project because there's other people that leave the band, you know? Sugarnap's only going to ever break up if I decide that I don't want to do it, and that's all I want to do. So, of course, it's not going to, you know, not going to break up. So yeah, that was kind of the timeline of all that, and I guess that was quite a few years ago now, which is even crazier to think about. But yeah, so before the first single, I think Sugarnap had been kind of around for 3 years, real quiet. I mean, I had been writing music for Sugarnap, I should say, with the whole vision. You know, I remember having a document, even with like the color scheme down. I was like, these are the colors I want the vibe to be, you know, and all that. And I really, really dialed it all in. So yeah, and then to circle back to that session at London Bridge Studio, that was a song that I had wrote, and I was singing lead on it, and I think that was kind of a tough thing too, because previously I had mainly taken the lead guitar player role with some harmonizing here and there, and so it was kind of like this new sound, this new look, this new vibe, and I think that was so conflicting. And I'd wrote the song about a really good friend of mine who had passed away when we were teenagers, and so it was a really special song that I held on to real tight. But fast forward, I still work with London Bridge a lot, and that song I actually ended up just redoing the parts that others did besides the drums, and that's actually gonna come out as a Sugarnap single, which is really exciting. And on top of that, to also circle back to the days of Pink Floyd. This is the first time this news has been out there, so it's a exciting thing. But Durga McBroom, who sang for Pink Floyd for 30 years on their last 3 albums and toured with them for years, she's singing on this song. She's singing on that song. So it's kind of a magic thing, and that song's coming out later this year. But yeah, so it's kind of been a magical few weeks. She's been recording that down in her studio in LA right now, so we've been in touch lots with that. I haven't gotten the finished tracks from her yet, but I'm just ecstatic. I'm gonna fly down as the sessions wrap up and say hi and all that. And,
yeah. How did you how did it all come together to bring her in?
So nothing crazy or fancy or secret or anything. I was pretty much on Facebook, and I followed John Caron, who was touring with Pink Floyd for a while, and he is pretty interactive with the people that like his page, with his fans, his followers, and I like to follow him and catch news from other Pink Floyd tours, Roger Waters tours, or David Gilmour, whatever. And he had made a post saying that Durga McBroom started her remote studio so she could be doing remote session work. And so I just messaged him and I said, hey, how can I get a hold of her? I would love for her to come on a Sugarnap song. And I've sent him Sugarnap stuff. I can't go publicly telling you if he listened to it or not. I hope he did, and I hope he liked it. But he sent me her information, and so I pretty much just messaged her on Facebook, which was the information he passed along, and she got back to me, and within that same night, we had a little contract drawn up, and it was ready to go.
Awesome.
Of course, I had to share the experience listening to Dark Side as a kid, and then watching the Pulse concerts where she sings part of Great Gig in the Sky. And
yeah,
I had to be a little fanboy for a second there, of course.
Oh, for sure. It's interesting because I had a kind of a similar situation with the podcast that I booked early on during the pandemic. We had Roger Earl from Foghat on the podcast. And so I was originally reached out to him a few years back because my dad was getting ready to retire from work. And my dad always had this story that he was the pilot that flew a plane to one of the photo shoots that they used on an album, like an EP that they had released. There's like a little airplane on it. And so I reached out to the bank or Foghat, just on their website. They had like a little contact us form or whatever. And I was like, told them the story. I was like, hey, it'd be awesome if you guys could put a video together and just kind of wish my dad a happy retirement, whatever, nothing crazy. And they're like, oh yeah, just let us know the details and all that stuff. And Roger Earl's wife emailed me because she was managing kind of all that stuff. And she's like, yeah, just let us know all this stuff. And I'm like, okay. And then my dad ended up not really retiring. So I was like, well, this is kind of on hold. And then pandemic hit. And I was like, hey, I do this podcast thing. Would you be interested in jumping on? Oh yeah, they'd love to. And I'm like, wait, what? Come again?
Yeah.
So that was a fun night, to say the least. So
I bet that's awesome.
Yeah.
So that was 2020. During the pandemic. That's awesome.
Yeah, for sure. Everybody had downtime, so it's like, maybe I need to be reaching out to more of these legends in the game and just see who I can get on here. So
yeah, why not?
No, but it's really cool, and the fact that you got her on the. Is it going to be the next single, or is it like a couple of singles off yet?
Hard telling, not knowing, as I like to say.
Yeah.
We've kind of got a batch of singles, and I've got, I produce and mix and do all the music myself, but I do have a very, very helpful team that I owe a lot to, that I kind of brainstorm with and shoot things back and forth with. So we're still kind of figuring out when it'll come out, but it'll be sometime this year.
Gotcha, that makes sense.
Whether it's the next one or after that, I don't know. But yeah.
For sure. So you got do have a new single out now. It's Harms. How long's it been out at this point?
Just shy of, I guess, what is it, the 10th day? So yeah, just about 8 days shy of 30 days.
Okay.
Just a week shy of a month, in other words.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's been It's been awesome. That was a really fun song. Actually, I recorded the drums myself for that at London Bridge Studio as well. So that was one of the first sessions back with the Sugarnap stuff to London Bridge,
Hmm.
which was of course just magic as always. I mean that room is so spectacular. So yeah, did drums there at London Bridge, and then everything else was done at my home studio. The song was written out on the Olympic Peninsula here on the Washington coastline. It's pretty remote area for the most part, and I certainly chose an even more remote area. And was kind of going out and having a little solo backpacking trip, and rode around a fire one night. I had been going through some kind of funky stuff in my life. I mean, I guess that's kind of the name of the game when you're living.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'd written that song, and kind of influenced by some people that I knew at the time, some people who had came and gone from my life, and some more significant than others, and it was kind of a caricature of not necessarily one specific person, but of like a I don't know, a style of character, a genre of person, if you will, you know, of this sort of this gal that is always kind of on the run, always looking for acceptance and love, and on the outside looking in, she's just a charmer. I mean, she's perfect. She's everybody's dream girl, but there's more to it, and there's all those faces and all those different flavors are all sort of a front to cover up something else that she's running from. So that's kind of who the song, and of course in the end it gives her harms. That's the chorus lyric. You know, all those fronts, and it's not exclusive to, I guess, a female character. It's what the song's about, but it's something that I think is something that a lot of us, you know, kind of challenge sometimes, is putting up different fronts to fit in with certain friend groups or relationships. You know, I know there's a relationship I've had where I fake interests sometimes because I so deeply love that relationship, you know, and it's not really good. You know, it's not really helpful because every time that I've done that relationship has ended. You know, I don't have a good track record, but anyway, it was a kind of a philosophical, looking in, introspective kind of thing. Character. Yeah, that's what it's about. Yeah, it's been out for a little bit now, and it's gotten some pretty good. Gotten some press on it, which has been really cool. I just partnered up with Odd Brothers Music Group, a record label, and they're doing a limited vinyl distribution of the single, which is so cool. First time I've ever done that. I've been waiting for the first opportunity to happen, so I'm just freaking out about it. So that'll be really exciting, and then
that's really cool that you're doing vinyl. Like you don't see that a lot, for at least for singles, just because the cost recoup isn't quite there for singles, but it's really cool. Right. So
yeah, it was a pretty exciting opportunity. It's not they're kind of doing it per record. They're a smaller label, and they don't press it. They lathe cut everything themselves. So they can keep costs way down themselves, and the timeline is you know, pretty quick too on turnaround time, which isn't the case for a lot of full length record pressing right now. So yeah, it's there's nothing out of pocket for me right now, and it's just it's the first time I've had any sort of deal like that, you know, that's actually materialized. So it's been a pretty exciting thing there. So we actually just launched that campaign pretty much today. So
cool. And it's the vinyls for sale now, or when does the actual sale happen?
Yeah, it'll be that link. So it's bought off of their website, Odd Brothers Music Group, and I put it on my website just so people who visit that website can see it. And there's a couple other social media reasons because I couldn't link my store stuff to another website. So anyway, yeah, you can get it on my website, and that just directs it over there. And
gotcha. That makes sense.
Yeah.
It makes things so much
says
easier when you do that. So
yeah, definitely. Yeah, so I think everything ships out in 3 weeks or something, and 3 weeks or 3.5 or something. But
awesome.
yeah,
Awesome. Cool. And so that's Harms is out now, and then of course you got the vinyl release, and it'll be shipped in about 3 weeks. What's kind of the plan moving forward? I know you said you got some shows on the books and stuff of that nature, but what's kind of the plans moving forward?
yeah. Actually, we just got confirmed today for a show with Bahamas. I don't know if you know Bahamas. They're an awesome band. Pretty big, successful indie rock band. Chill. I think it's actually another single kind of producer engineer guy like me who then has a live band that comes out with him. So
Gotcha.
anyway, I've been a big fan for a long time, so it's exciting, and this will actually be the official live debut for Sugarnap.
Okay.
So that's a pretty big deal, I guess. And it's
Nice.
at Numos in Seattle, which is one of my favorite venues to play in Seattle. Really great venue.
Nice.
I've played there before with one of my old bands.
What can people expect from a Sugarnap show?
So typically, when we're practicing and getting ready for that, and we actually did a little house show at my spot last year just for a live video thing, which is on YouTube. You can watch the whole live thing, and that was kind of an exclusive invite only. That's why I say our real first debut is next week.
Yeah.
But I really like the songs kind of taking on a different life live. My thoughts have kind of been, if somebody wants to hear the music exactly like it is on the record, then they can turn the record up really loud. You know. So they don't sound like different songs, but there's a lot more drawn out parts, and there's some longer jams, and the intros are different a little bit, and part of that's also due just to the kind of complexity of the production with some of those songs, because I really don't like doing backtrack stuff. I like to perform as much of all the parts as possible. So yeah, that'll be that. We're trying to. It's going to be a little bit of an interesting show because the Bahamas backline is so big.
Yeah.
It's just us and them, and so most of the stage is going to be taken up. And so we're having to adjust a few things for our live set than what we would typically be doing.
Yeah.
So it might take on a life that structurally is a little bit more similar to the record. But yeah, it's a good time. I like listening to the live versions of our jams.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, that's always, so I'm assuming they don't have that big of a stage where you're going to play, if or is their backline that big that it's just...
So that's why I was so shocked, because they have and I played there before with pretty big lineups. I've been on a bill of 5 other bands on that stage, and most of each band has their own backline. I think a few shared drum sets or something. But anyway, so yeah, I was shocked to find out that I'm the only opener for the show, and there's not that much room on the stage. So yeah, it's a big stage, but I guess there's just that big of a band for Bahamas.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's wild. So for your live set, will it be just you by yourself, or will you bring in other session guys or whatever?
So the live Sugarnap thing, and you can see all this stuff on YouTube as well. I've got the whole concert from that little garage show I did here on YouTube. We put that together mostly for promotional reasons for booking and all that. But that's all on there, and you can kind of see what the full band dynamic looks like. But typically, I've turned down quite a few offers to do solo Sugarnap shows, again, because it would be a lot of backing tracks, and I'm not that psyched about that.
Yeah.
I don't really want to charge people 10, 20, 30, 40 bucks to come watch me hit buttons, and then jam to them. I mean, I don't have anything against people that do that. I pay that kind of money to go see people do that,
Yeah.
But it's just, I don't really want to do that with Sugarnap, especially this early in the game,
Yeah, for sure. I get it.
So for the show next week, on Tuesday, I'll have, we're trying to work it out where we can try to get everybody up there, but it'll for sure be 3 of us. It'll be me, the keyboard player, and the bass player. So when I mentioned it being slightly more like the record, we might just pull the drums from the actual studio recordings. and then just have the rest of us, the three of us, do the performance over that.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and so as far as the live band goes, it's a consistent group of guys that I've
Okay.
got. I don't just pull in. I mean, there will be times in the future where if one guy can't play a really big show, then I'll pull somebody else on who can fill that spot. And that's all an agreement that we've all made, and it's
Yeah.
it's kind of on the premise that everybody else also has their own bands, and everyone in the band is playing in different things all the time. We're all trying to do it full time and just make a life out of music. So I want to make sure that they have all the opportunities they can, to be playing gigs. And
For sure.
anyway,
For sure.
but yeah,
Yeah.
it'll always be as consistent as it can be with these guys.
Gotcha. And I guess that was a better way to answer the question than I actually asked it, because that's kind of more what I was as I was asking that question in my head. I was like, nope, this isn't coming out right, but I'm already in the middle of the question. So
I thought that you might be asking for that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was picking up what you were putting down.
yeah. But what might be interesting is, because I've seen, like, on a lot of the shows that I've been to where they have a lot of bands, they share like drum sets, like, and then just everybody swaps out their own cymbals. So maybe that might be a workaround to the backline issue. I don't know if that helps at all, but
yeah, we've been asking about it. My managers have been back and forth with the booker all day, all morning and all day. It's 6 p.m. here, and it's just I'm still getting texts from them. We're still trying to squeeze it out of them if we can get our drummer on there and to do exactly that, right? Because I've seen so many shows where just the drum set is shared. So
yeah.
But they're a much bigger band, and I can understand that they might be concerned about sharing their stuff, because if something happens during our set, it's their tour, and they're SOL if they don't have other stuff. So
yeah,
I get it. It's unfortunate. I get it though. So
I've seen it go awry the other way. There was a show that I went to. My buddy's band wasn't the headliner, but they had the best looking gear. I get, like, not the best gear, but at least the best looking gear. And so they put up their his drum sets, and one of the bands before them, the drummer had these big ass like marching band drumsticks. Yep, that's what I'm going for. And like these big old meat cleaver looking things. And he's like, dude, he is going to destroy my drum set. I'm going to get pissed if he does this.
Yeah, sure enough.
It was he escaped, but he was pissed about it. So it was,
I bet
it was interesting. So, but I totally get it. Like, you don't want somebody coming in and destroying your gear, especially if you don't know who they are. And it's like, but you're both there for a reason, so you got to have a little bit of trust that you're both professional and you're gonna do right by them. So.
Yeah, definitely. There's a fun. It's no south with us or any of my experiences playing. But yeah, you just never know. And I'm also not the drummer, and guitar players are really particular about. I mean, everyone's particular about their instruments, but we're usually not. Guitar players are so anal about their tone that you don't usually see them sharing amps. So
yeah, for sure.
I've usually been that, so I've never had to share.
For sure. So that show's coming up, and then this will be like the debut of Sugarnap. It just in general, as you put it. Are you playing more shows after, or what's kind of the rest of the? I guess. Holy shit! The rest of the summer, I guess, at this point.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, we've been just practicing a lot in January and February, and I've been just recording like crazy, getting ready putting together a whole album.
Yeah.
I've just been crazy. So we've been practicing a lot between that. Yeah, this Bahamas show on Tuesday at Numos will be kind of the first kickoff of what will end up being, hopefully, a really busy summer. We're still booking a lot. We're getting gigs here and there, and trying not to saturate our weekends too much by playing 2 or 3 nights a week, and we don't want to wear our fans out too much, But anticipating a lot of shows this year, and then kind of between all those shows, lots of new music coming out. I've got the stream of singles coming out for my next album. My next album is the plan. On top of that, I've been recording little covers EP, which I'm really excited about. Kind of a Sugarnap take on some old favorites. So that I don't really have a release date for that yet. It'll
Yeah.
probably be just kind of a surprise thing I'll drop. But yeah, that's the plan there, and hopefully getting some more collaborations in. That's another goal of mine in this new year. I love doing collaborations. I had 2 on the Sugarnap EP, and that was just a blast. So looking forward to linking up with other artists that like working with other artists, I guess. You know, coming from the producer side of things, I just love working with artists and seeing their visions come to life and collaborating on visions and different music endeavors, and yeah, so hoping for lots of that too.
Awesome. What kind of covers are you looking, or are you putting out on this EP? Like, not necessarily anything in specific, but what kind of covers? What kind of music are you covering?
There's a lot of songs that I'm covering that were previously female led that I'm singing. A lot of kind of 90s stuff.
Okay.
That's actually most of it is kind of 90s stuff. A little bit of 80s stuff.
Now, is it like, are you talking like rockish music, or are you going like completely left field and doing like hip hop and then like reimagining it to more your sound?
No, it's more kind of like alt rock stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, the more chill side of alt rock.
Yeah.
I'm doing a Chris Isaac song as well, which will be pretty fun. Some Mazzy Star. Yeahs.
Nice.
That's a couple of the artists that I'll be covering. So
that's what's
part
up.
Of it is what's that?
I was just say that's what's up, and you don't have a release date for that yet, right?
I don't have a release date for that yet. Yeah. No, I haven't even really announced that I'm doing that.
Gotcha.
It's just something that I'm working on, and like I said, it'll probably be sort of a last minute surprise kind of. Hey, here's a covers EP. Go check it out. You know.
Yeah.
And of course, I'll do some promoting behind it. But,
oh yeah, for sure.
Focusing on the original stuff, of course, and show.
So now's kind of the point in the podcast that I ask you to pick your favorite child. So out of everything that you've released over the last couple of years under the Sugarnap project, what's your favorite song to play?
Like perform?
Yeah, perform.
Oh man, that's so tough. I mean, I wrote them all, so of course I'm a little biased. I mean, I love them all. I think I really enjoy, and you don't hear it quite as much on the record. I mixed it pretty low, but live it really, really comes out. But I love playing the acoustic guitar part on Going Nowhere.
Okay.
I think my favorite song to perform that isn't a song that's even released yet is a song called Tomorrow, and you actually can watch that on YouTube. Put that on YouTube. It's a song called Tomorrow. Wrote that up in Alaska. That song is recorded already. I have Ben Smith, who played with Heart and also played for the Stillwater band on the movie Almost Famous.
Yep.
He drummed on that song, which is pretty cool. And he did actually a couple other Sugarnap songs as well. But anyway, that's probably my favorite song to play. I thought it was Going Nowhere, but I'm gonna have to say Tomorrow. That's my final answer.
Awesome. I mean, it's this obviously isn't the end all be all to, oh nope, that's his favorite song. That's what he said.
Yeah.
So
yeah, right. Yeah, it's pretty fun. And live, Going Nowhere is such a blast, and we've kind of reimagined that a little bit more live as well. But Tomorrow, again, only available on YouTube right now, but it was kind of the first song that I decided to call back to my more jammy roots with some guitar stuff, lead guitar work. I mean, I remember there was a moment when I was writing all the Sugarnap stuff, I'm like, I'm not even going to have any lead guitar in here because I'm going to be so new and exciting. Yeah. And of course, I'm like, dude, you grew up playing guitar. I mean, why do you got to toss it out like that? But anyway, so Tomorrow was one of the first Sugarnap songs where I really got to emphasize all that again. And so what in the studio recording is maybe a minute, not even a minute, 45 seconds of a little jam between keyboards and synth and guitar. Live we turned that into like a 6-minute jam. and it's just so much fun. You know, me and the keyboard player are bouncing stuff off of each other, and it's just such a fun song to play. And there's some great harmonies on it. Very Crosby, Stills and Nash, and
Yeah.
it's kind of like a callback to many of the things that I grew up on that influenced me. So I'm excited to release that one. That will be the last single released before my new album. So
Awesome.
it can be anticipated, but it'll be a ways out.
Gotcha. So
Yeah, the live version's on YouTube, and we've still played that song live. So
awesome. So you still got a lot of music to release yet. I'm going to say yet this year, but just in general, you still got a lot of singles to release before the album. So are all just to kind of tease more towards the album here before we kind of start wrapping things up, are all these singles that you're working on, are they building to the album? Like, will some of them be on the album, or will the album be like fresh, new, never heard, never seen before music?
no, it's absolutely going to be building up for the album. So Harms is that first song, that first single. That'll be off the album. Tomorrow will be the last, and some of those other ones I've mentioned and there's more to come. That those will all be off of the album. So that's really exciting. And like I was mentioning earlier, I mean, I've just got catalogs of music recorded, even, you know, songs that are done and ready to go. I know I've probably got 2.5 full-length albums worth of material ready to go. And
hey, that's a good thing, right?
It's great, and it just keeps coming, and it's a little overwhelming because I'm running out of time to keep writing, and then I'm writing new stuff before I'm, you know, finishing up old stuff. So I gotta, you know, make a block schedule for certain recording things, and it's I feel very privileged to be so inspired with all this stuff, and it's been just amazing. And I'm sure most of it will all get out there. I'm sure there'll be some things that by the time I get around to it, I'm gonna feel like I just don't want to release it anymore.
Yeah.
And maybe put out a little thing later.
That'll be kind of an interesting process that you go through as you start realizing, oh crap, I've got 40 songs I got to record. And then just kind of that process you go through to be like, okay, I'm going to record this one, and how you kind of choose those songs. And as you kind of go through your journey in this music career, it's like, okay, this song doesn't really edit. It'll be kind of interesting to see how that all plays out. So
yeah, definitely. I think, and that was part of the thing with the first Sugarnap EP too, is it kind of captured a few different flavors of the other categories of songs that I've got. You know, they're all Sugarnap, but I think they all kind of take on a different emphasis of some genres. I mean, When She Comes is one of my favorites from the EP, and that's a lot more folky, kind of folktronic, which is really cool. And then, you know, what I did with Julia Newman, and has a totally, you know, rock vibe. A big long fade out of a guitar solo and all that, you know. So I was kind of testing the waters a little bit, you know, seeing what the reception was and what people liked. I mean, I like it all. I don't feel like I'd be robbing myself of any artistic integrity by not doing one thing or the other. You know, I love everything I'm making, and that's why I'm making it, I guess. And so I was kind of testing the waters with that. But what I can see potentially being a thing is maybe releasing different EPs with groups of songs that fit more together, you know. And then the album kind of being the largest sum of songs that fit together at an album's length worth of stuff. Good. You know. So that's kind of how I've been breaking it down right now. And again, it's not like I'm doing, you know, jazz and then Americana and then heavy metal. It's not quite that crazy. You know. But you know, small subtle differences that I probably pay more attention to than most. But anyway.
It's enough of a difference to keep things interesting, but not enough to have an identity crisis.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Cool. But awesome. But it's been an absolute blast chatting with you. If anybody wants to check out the new music, anything else you got going on, any show updates, or just interact with you on social, where's the best place to do that?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook. Facebook.com, official Sugarnap. That's the Instagram handle as well, official Sugarnap. I'm on TikTok. I post some each platform. I kind of post its own exclusive sort of content. Facebook and Instagram get the most shared content, but TikTok gets some fun TikTok exclusive stuff, and that's just sugar_nap. Same with Twitter, and then Facebook and Instagram are both official Sugarnap. On top of that, I'm pretty active on the website. And the mailing list on there is great. I personally am picky with mailing lists because I don't like to get just wicked annoyed by someone sending out emails. So, and I'm also just have so much other stuff going on that I can assure you that my mailing list isn't too annoying. I post things, maybe once a month or something. Yeah. But I'm real detailed with all that too. That's kind of the best way to get the big backstories on stuff. I usually share recording stories and blips and exclusive pictures from inside some of those sessions, and sometimes photos of like locations of where I wrote, whatever song. I did that with Harms. I got a few photos that are just from on that email blast that were from when I wrote that. So anyway, and you can sign up for the mailing list on the website, just at the bottom of the page on the website.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, once again, thank you so much for hanging out with us. It's been an absolute blast chatting with you. Can't wait to hear the new music, all the fun stuff you got going on, and hopefully one of these years we'll make it up to Pacific Northwest. We'll say that because
totally.
It's definitely been on the bucket list of places that we want to go. Visit Seattle. Like, what music lover in general, especially when you grow up in the 90s, like who wouldn't want to go visit Seattle? But I feel like
exactly
that's just about everybody. So, but
you'll have to let me know when you guys get up here.
Oh, for sure. I've got your number. And actually, that's kind of funny. So when you called me, for whatever reason, I had you saved in as Caleb on my phone, but for whatever reason, it popped up as Thomas. And I'm like, I have no idea who that is. So, and then then I started putting 2 to 2 together. I was like, oh crap, that's and then, so I texted you and I was just like, oh yeah. So that was kind of funny, but I absolutely appreciate you hanging out with us. I look forward to keeping in touch and seeing what you got going on. So, but yeah,
it's great. Yeah, and I guess I forgot to mention it too when you were asking about the music. I'm on all the streaming platforms. I mentioned all the social media, and I forgot to mention all that. So, just all the all the streaming platforms I'm on. All the music is. So, anyway, it was great. It was great chatting and really fun. And thanks so much for having me, and definitely looking forward to staying in touch and getting on again sometime.
Yeah, for sure. Once again, thank you so much for everybody hanging out with us, and we will catch you all later. Cool. We're good. We're clear.